Terminator Pete. Early concept art shows the changes made to Petetronic before his design became what it is now. One of these looks very similar to the T-800 model of robots from James Cameron's Terminator films. Funny enough, the design used in the Epic Mickey graphic novel definitely has its fair share of resemblance to the classic Terminator look from the movies. The real Daisy Duck appearing in Tales of Wasteland. Animatronic Donald, Goofy, and Daisy were all to appear in the Tales of Wasteland comics. While animatronic Donald and Goofy did, animatronic Daisy was mistakenly drawn with her cartoon world counterpart's appearance. The identity of the robot dog. This entry is in reference to the Horse Collar quest in the first game, in which you're asked to locate dog tags in the Tomorrow City level that belong to a robotic dog, specifically in the Space Voyage section of the level. There is no existing imagery of this dog, sprites, concept art, or otherwise, but because of the existence of animatronic Donald, Goofy, and Daisy, it's possible this robot dog could be animatronic Pluto, or it could potentially be a reference to the Space Dog from the Space Mountain attraction in Disney parks throughout the world. The dog may belong to Mr. Rover, who is the only toon in Tomorrow City if you don't count Petetronic or any of the gremlins found here. Epic Disney Racers. A spin-off racing game was planned for an unknown release date called Epic Disney Racers and would feature classic animated Disney characters as well as established characters from the Epic Mickey series. Obviously, this would never come to fruition after Junction Point's closing. Gus's unused Tortuga dialogue. There exists an out-of-bound glitch in Epic Mickey in the Tortuga level of the game involving Gremlin Gus. Should you complete this glitch, a creepy line of text spoken by him that does not appear normally in-game states, "Dead men tell no tales." It's unclear what the purpose of this text was supposed to be, but the next text says, "Worked as promised, let's head through," referring to the projector screens. Because it's only acceptable via glitching, it's clear that this dialogue was meant to be cut for release. Special thanks to Epic Mickey Wiki user Nintenshibe, I'm butchering this, I'm sorry, for your post about this entry that I'll link in the description. Porter becomes a blot spirit. Porter is a generic cow-like NPC who first appears on Mean Street after Mickey defeats animatronic Hook. Porter says he is new in town and his friend, Rufus McBark, is giving him the grand tour. However, after Mickey defeats the Mad Doctor and returns to Mean Street, Porter is nowhere to be seen. During the final confrontation with the Phantom Blot, new enemies called Blot Spirits that are possessed NPCs met throughout the game who mindlessly attack Mickey and are immune to paint and thinner attacks. One of these Blot Spirits looks very much cow-like, leading many fans to believe that one of these spirits is Porter after being absorbed by the Blot. Once the Blot is destroyed at the end of the game, all the spirits return to their original form, so regardless, Porter is still alive and kicking. Hashtag Team Porter. Oswald Blot. Remember the Storm Blot we talked about earlier? In the game's original story that saw Oswald playing a more villainous role, he would merge with the Blot, becoming a monstrous creature called the Storm Blot, capable of destroying all of Wasteland. The Blot would essentially possess Oswald, giving the new monstrosity seemingly limitless power until Mickey could convince Oswald to do what's right and move on from his vengeful ways. Play magic. Something else we talked about a while ago was the rumor of a remastered port of the first Epic Mickey that began swirling in late 2019. What led fans to come to this conclusion was the aforementioned Hot Topic merch released at the same time, as well as an employee of game development company Play Magic listing a remake of a Disney action game on his resume. After 2 years, it's hard to say if this is actually happening or if it was just mere speculation. Either way, Play Magic is at the center of the rumor and have yet to release or even announce any new Disney projects, so who's to say? Play Magic, if you're watching this and you're working on an Epic Mickey remake, please let us know soon because this suspense is absolutely killing me. Also, I did put a lot of work into making this video. Perhaps you could shoot me a free copy. That would be awesome. The implications of multiple versions of the same character. This one's a little confusing, so bear with me. Cartoon characters go through redesigns all the time, and Disney cartoons are no exception to this. You see those t-shirts or posters or even Funko Pops showing the different iterations of Mickey Mouse throughout the years, meaning that the most modern design is the version of the character most people look toward. Mickey is such an icon that every version of him, for the most part, is looked upon with love and remembrance among Disney fans. But when it comes to less popular characters like Horse Collar, for example, some of their designs aren't as culturally relevant, causing them to end up in Wasteland, while the fan favorite versions remain in the cartoon world to continue serving their purpose as a star. Simply put, out with the old, in with the new. The canon fate of the Shadow Blot. Epic Mickey 2 seems to treat the first game's thinner ending with the Shadow Blot as canon, seeing as the blot doesn't appear outside of a small Easter egg on the cinema wall in the second game. The sequel also does remind Mickey of the blot's defeat from the last game, which is pretty much the nail in the coffin for that theory. I personally think the canon ending is the thinner route. I love the different routes you can take and the argument that comes with what makes each one canon, so let me know what you think. Clarabelle's design is unique to the game. Another simple entry with a heavy implication. Clarabelle is a classic Disney character, though not known nearly as well as the Fab Five or Sensational Six, it changes sometimes. She's seen lots of design changes over the years, but her particular design in Epic Mickey is one that has never been seen outside of the games. Maybe this design of hers is a scrapped one that never made it into a cartoon, similar to the many different designs of Pete within Wasteland. Horace appearing in Wasteland before the Thinner disaster. You've heard me talk about the Tales of Wasteland comics a lot at this point, but seeing as they are in fact canon, any noteworthy story beat within these comics is a major topic of discussion. Horace appears in 3 of these comics, and since they are all prequels to the first game, he was obviously in Wasteland before the Thinner disaster that Mickey caused. In addition to this, Horace can be seen in a flashback cutscene as a wave of Thinner rises above Mean Street. Scrapped Castle of Illusion enemies appear in Epic Mickey Power of Illusion. This one is more of just a theory thought up by the creator of this Iceberg. During a behind-the-scenes trailer for Power of Illusion, concept art for armor enemies just kind of shows up. It's not really related to anything that's being discussed on screen. It was just kind of assumed that this concept art was from Castle of Illusion and brought back for Epic Mickey Power of Illusion. There's no real documentation of this concept art anywhere outside of the video, so there's no real way to confirm it. Scrapped content used in the graphic novel. Some elements of the Epic Mickey graphic novel were actually scrapped concepts that didn't make it into the final release of the first game, like Mickey freeing Gus at the beginning of the story. Neverland. Peter Pan's home Neverland was originally planned to be a location within the series, but was changed into what would ultimately become Ventureland. The one and only Chase Jones went on record to say that the Neverland level would be canned because it just had too much to do in it that would distract from the game's main plot. Original tanker design. This entry is in reference to an early design for the tanker, showing it missing both of its cannons with a single arm that doesn't appear in the games. This design could have brought about a much different villain than what we see in the series. Epic Mickey 2's original plot. In the second game's original story, we would have seen Mickey returning to Dark Beauty Castle in search of the Mad Doctor, only to be captured and have his heart and the remnants of the blot removed from him in order to revive the blot and merge with it. Big Bad Pete would have served as a spy for the Mad Doctor until seeing his blot works kill, yes, kill, Gremlin Prescott. Pete would tell Mickey and Oswald of the Mad Doctor's plans, leading to Mickey's decision to destroy his own heart and the blot along with it. Yen Sid would have been moved by Mickey's sacrifice and given him a new heart so that he may return home. Yen Sid would also have given Oswald a heart of his own, but Oswald would ultimately choose to stay in Wasteland. If I can give my 2 cents, because that's exactly what it's worth, I think this plot would have been way more interesting than what we saw in the final game, and I wish this is the one that we gotten. The occurrence of blot spirits. We talked about the blot spirits a while back, #Team Porter, and how they are mindless, zombie-esque versions of characters met throughout the first game. But what's interesting about them is that Oswald and Gus, who also appear in the game's final level, are not turned into blot spirits simply because someone must be hit with thinner to be turned into a blot spirit, and these two have not been affected. While most versions of the game leave the fates of the spirits unclear, in the Spanish version, Gus states that the characters turned into blot spirits return to their normal lives after the blot is destroyed. Large Mickey Blotlings and Raged Monster. I put these 2 entries together because they both refer to discarded characters that never made it past the concept phase for the first game and were, quite frankly, very intense. This piece of concept art shows Mickey battling a much larger sized Blotling designed to look like him, complete with the iconic ears and red shorts with white buttons. And this art shows what I personally think looks like a Venus flytrap-esque Blotling that would travel around by splashing into puddles of thinner. These enemies would have had large, sharp, jagged teeth and would presumably spit thinner as a method of attacking. Epic Mickey Olympics spin-off. Similar to Epic Disney Racers and even Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, another planned spin-off that never made it into production was an Olympic-style party game. Characters from the series were expected to appear, and concept art does exist for other classic Disney characters such as Maleficent and Hercules. Epic Mickey-based Disney park attraction. I cannot for the life of me find this interview anywhere, but I know for certain an interview with Warren Spector exists in which he discusses not only the then-pitched Epic Mickey film adaptation, but his hopes for a Disney Parks attraction based on the franchise. It's not clear what kind of attraction he envisioned, but as someone who tries to visit Walt Disney World pretty regularly, it's a shame we never got to see this dream realized. And if anyone knows about this interview that I'm talking about and knows where to find it, please leave a link in the comments so everyone can go check it out, because I have spent way too long trying to find it. Animatronic Minnie and Pluto. Animatronic versions of most of Disney's Sensational Six are scattered throughout Wasteland. We're aware of the existence of animatronics Goofy, Donald, and Daisy, but what about arguably Mickey's two favorite people, his love Minnie and his best pal and dog Pluto? The answer is simple: they were cut. Animatronic versions of Minnie and Pluto are nowhere to be seen in the series. We talked about it a while back, but it is speculated that the dog tags you're asked to search for by Horace in Tomorrow City belong to a robotic dog believed to be animatronic Pluto. Regardless, it is super interesting that even though we have animatronics inspired by Mickey's best friends, Minnie and Pluto are left out. I personally choose to believe that because Goofy, Donald, and Daisy animatronics were built as friends for Oswald, and he already has Hortensia and their 420 kids. Which is hilarious, by the way! He has no need for a robot girlfriend or even a dog, especially with how full his hands are as a powerful figurehead and family man. Mad respect, Oswald, you're killing the game, dude. Walt Disney originally created. Warren Spector originally wanted to fill Wasteland with concepts and characters designed during Walt Disney's lifetime. This ultimately wouldn't be realized, as there are several elements within the game that were created after Walt's death in 1966, such as references to the 1979 film The Black Hole, Tron, and parts of attractions from Disney's California Adventure serving as pieces of boss battles with the Mad Doctor. Scrapped Blotworks designs. These two pieces of concept art from Epic Mickey 2 show two cut versions of Blotworks that were equal parts blot and machine, one version looking more like the Sweepers and another resembling the Slobbers, constructed with pieces of Herbie the Love Bug. Unused Beetleworks in Epic Mickey 2.
During the credits of Epic Mickey 2, conceptual artwork for unused versions of the Hopper, Spinner, and Basher enemies is seen. These unused Beetleworks can be found fully modeled in test levels. Shout out to wiki user Rampant Leaf for being the one to find them.
Ursula. Ursula appears as an antagonist in Epic Mickey The Power of Illusion, but she was also supposed to appear in the first game. She would have shared her useful information about Wasteland with Mickey to help him on his journey home. Because the level would have been set within the jug and possibly underwater, having Ursula appear here only made sense. Prescott's original fate. Epic Mickey 2's original story saw Gremlin Prescott on the side of Mickey and Oswald instead of turning evil. However, this cancelled script saw Prescott fall to his death at the hands of one of the Mad Doctor's inventions, making it the first time a hero-siding character would canonically die in the series. Blackbeard. Disneyland and Walt Disney World opened Pirates of the Caribbean on March 18, 1967 and December 17, 1973 respectively, and both featured the infamous pirate Captain Blackbeard throughout the ride, later to be replaced by the crew of the Johnny Depp movies, along with many new original characters. Regardless, the opening day Blackbeard animatronic was given the boot. How does this connect to Epic Mickey 2? In Ventureland, the pirate crew will tell Mickey that they've been kicked out of Tortuga by none other than Blackbeard himself. While this iteration of the captain is never seen in-game, it's a pretty safe bet that the Blackbeard originally in Pirates of the Caribbean and the one mentioned in Epic Mickey 2 are one and the same.
Unused sketches. The sketch items Mickey can use throughout Wasteland feature a TV, which can be used to distract enemies, a watch to slow down time for a brief period, and an anvil to crush enemies, weigh down pressure plates, or help Mickey access places too high to jump to. There's also a fairy sketch in Epic Mickey 2 that allows enemies and objects to float for a brief period. Originally, the first Epic Mickey was going to feature balloon and fireworks sketches in addition to the aforementioned ones. There was also to be a vending machine Mickey could have used that would either give him a sketch or a useless item like a dud bomb.
Disney closed down Junction Point Studios immediately after the release of Epic Mickey 2. Disney Interactive acquired Junction Point Studios from Universal in 2006 and pitched their Mickey Mouse concept to them, and we know the rest. 2 games later, Disney Interactive shut Junction Point's doors in January of 2013, mere months after Epic Mickey 2's release. It's been widely speculated that this is due to Epic Mickey 2's poor sales and critical response when compared to its predecessor, but ex-Junction Point staff have since spoken out stating that this is in fact not the case, and that sales data hadn't even been calculated in such a small time frame. Disney closed Junction Point due to Disney Interactive change of management in 2010 and their desire to move to a strictly mobile market. Disney would begin licensing their IPs to outside studios as it was more cost-effective and wouldn't look bad on Disney as a company should the game flop critically or at retail. Oswald is unaware of originally being owned by Universal. We already know that Walt Disney made the Oswald cartoons as part of his contract with Universal in the mid-1920s, but it doesn't seem Oswald does. As far as the character himself is concerned, Disney just up and abandoned him to pursue his Mickey Mouse cartoons. When Universal refused to renew their contract with Disney, the rights to Oswald reverted fully to Universal, meaning that they had full custody of the character and could do whatever they wanted with him. The game's plot seems to suggest that Oswald is either fully unaware that he was owned by Universal, or this version of the character is the one that existed before Disney lost the rights to him. Kinda like the villains in Spider-Man No Way Home getting removed from their universes just as they were about to die. Oswald is Doc Ock. Super Goof. Believe it or not, Goofy has a superhero alter ego called Super Goof. His first appearance as Super Goof was, ironically, in the second issue of the Phantom Blot comics from 1965, and even had his own series until 1984, later popping up in other Disney media. He was actually planned a cameo in the now cancelled Epic Donald. Epic Mickey Incubation. On July 12, 2021, wiki user RobbieYT attached the LinkedIn page of UK senior animator Alex Webster, which featured a since-deleted credit for a project called Epic Mickey Incubation, slated for a 2011 release. Obviously, this game doesn't exist, and if it ever did, it was never completed. But was the game ever real at all? And if it was, what was it? Side note, Alex Webster was one of the few who had any kind of work on the cancelled Epic Donald, so maybe Epic Mickey Incubation was the working title for a series entry that he worked on and didn't have the time to finish. Pink Elephants on Parade projector screen. In 2020, a cut 2D projector screen level from Epic Mickey 2 was leaked online, inspired by the pink elephant scene from Dumbo. The scene in question comes to be when Dumbo and Timothy Mouse hallucinate after drinking champagne. It's believed the level was cut due to the original scene's alcohol reference and its effect on the game's age ratings. The Blot and the Blob comic. Printed in 2019 in the Norwegian Donald Duck comics, The Blot and the Blob is a story about the Phantom Blot discovering the Blot from the Epic Mickey series. When the Phantom Blot breaks into the Mouston Museum's Parallel Universe exhibit looking to unlock untold evil, he comes across none other than the Blot from the first game. Yes, in 2019, an obscure Norwegian comic published a story featuring a character from a series of games that had been cancelled for over 6 years at the time. Outro Black Pete. Chase Jones stated on his Twitter that there were some bigger plot lines for Black Pete planned in the series. Of course, there is no character named Black Pete in the game, so whether he misspoke or named a character we've never seen before is unclear. However, in 2020, series composer Jim Dooley began uploading cut game tracks to his YouTube channel, one titled Outro Black Pete. Maybe this was a scrapped name for Big Bad Pete or even an all-new character. Regardless, the answer is still unclear. Shores of the Thinner Ocean. Similar to what would eventually become Disney Gulch in Epic Mickey 2, this entry is in reference to a cut level from the original game that took place, well, on the shores of the Thinner Ocean. This gloomy beach would have been littered with vintage Disney merchandise, also similar to Mickey Junk Mountain. Concept art of this level does exist, and I honestly wish this was a level that made it into the game. This could have been something really, really interesting. McBasil Rocks. A deactivated Tumblr user by the name McBasilRocks is known in the games community for their posting of cut content from the series. The user even went as far as to get in touch with the game's concept artist, Adam Fenton, in search of answers regarding what original concepts of the series ended up on the cutting room floor. Again, go check out the Game History Secrets video linked in the description if you want to see what they found. Like I said though, the McBasilRocks Tumblr account has since been deactivated, and finding a lot of their posts can take some digging. Radio appears both in Wasteland and Mickey's Real House. Mickey's radio makes multiple appearances both in Louie's house in Bog Easy in the first game, and in a pretty easy to miss cameo, the radio also appears in Mickey's Real House in the cartoon world. The Jug Pump. In the first game's opening cutscene, after Mickey makes a mess of Yensid's paint and thinner, we see the Blot seep into Wasteland from this jug of thinner, unleashing the thinner disaster and the Blot itself. The jug is referenced many times throughout the game as the containment space or the prison that holds the Blot. The jug was actually planned to be a level of its own, using those godforsaken underwater physics. Gremlin Marcus's Fate. Gremlin Marcus has a pretty decently sized role in Epic Mickey, but he does not appear at all in the second game. However, his cousin with an identical character model, Jamface, plays a large part in the game's story in the same vein of Marcus. The reason for this is Marcus is crushed by an operating table before the events of Epic Mickey 2 and needed someone to fill in for him.
Oh dear. Poor Marcus was put on medical leave when he got stuck under the table. His cousin, Jamface, took over the projector duty in his absence to make them...
Sentient Brush. This clip posted by Robbie on YouTube shows that, originally, the magic brush Mickey uses was meant to be fully sentient and move on its own. Thanks to Reddit user Fungus Nitrogen for showing me this clip and helping me with this entry. Their page will be linked in the description. The Epcot and MGM Studios ship. This piece of concept art depicts an old, beat-up steamboat featuring attractions from both Epcot and MGM Hollywood Studios parks in Walt Disney World, including the now-defunct Earful Tower, Spaceship Earth, and the infamous Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. This art was one of my first introductions to Epic Mickey, and needless to say, I was hooked from the get-go. Mushroom Village. Going back to the concept drawing of the large Mickey blotling, the background depicts a land of giant mushrooms. No level like this exists in the game, but similar oversized fungi appear alongside the cut Wonderland section of the game, so it's possible that these mushrooms were planned to be part of that specific area. Tomorrow City Hopper Origins. All Beetleworks enemies throughout the series have toon armor protecting their animatronic parts. This armor is almost always made up of some kind of Disney merchandise to the sort. Almost. The Hopper enemies in Tomorrow City have been confirmed to be made up of parts of the sign for Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland. The head, however, has unknown origins. That's it. The head of this particular enemy does not have a known piece of Disney memorabilia serving as inspiration. Or maybe it does?
The most likely inspiration could be the helmet of the wandering spaceman from Tomorrowland in 1959. It's not exactly accurate, but you can definitely see the connection. Shout out to Bane for pointing this out to me.
Wasteland was originally a dumpster behind the Walt Disney Studios lot. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Even though Wasteland's portal ended up being in Yensid's workshop, which is admittedly more magical, the first draft of the story saw Wasteland existing within a dumpster behind the Walt Disney Studios lot in Burbank, California. And it was also conceptualized to be in a dumpster behind Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland. Digitally colored toons. Starting in the late 80s, Disney Animation began using digital means to color their hand-drawn cartoons, and the first film to feature this would be The Little Mermaid in 1989. What does this mean for Epic Mickey? Since any post-1989 Disney character is colored digitally, and many of these Disney Renaissance-era characters appear in Power of Illusion, it begs the question, how would they be affected by thinner, if at all? I like how this entry really made me think, and is a totally valid question regarding the series lore. Camp Pirate Whales. The first Epic Mickey supposedly featured an enemy in Ventureland that was scrapped due to file corruption. The enemy even had their own page on the Epic Mickey wiki. Even though the page claims screenshots of the enemy exist, no concrete evidence has ever surfaced, and no one has been able to contact the creator of the page. The page itself was deleted a number of years ago because of the lack of sources. However, on April 1st, 2022, a new wiki page was created for the Camp Pirate Whales containing concept art and confirmation of the character's existence via Chase Jones' interview. Take a look.
Now you're sweet, it's your mouth. Do you know the rules? I show you are.
Yeah, it was an April Fool's joke. Real evidence of these enemies has yet to make its way online. Madame Leona is a real ghost. I kind of spoiled this entry a little while ago in case you missed it. In Lonesome Manor, if you talk to the marble busts, one of them will tell Mickey, cartoon ghosts aren't really ghosts. They were never alive, so to speak. The implication here is that the lonesome ghosts are simply toons based off of ghosts, but all of the other ghosts, including Madame Leona, are actual ghosts. Especially seeing that the ghosts of Lonesome Manor are not affected by thinner, while the lonesome ghosts are. These, real ghosts. These, not real. Fanny Cottontail and the whereabouts of other Oswald characters. The early Oswald cartoons featured Oswald's first love interest, Fanny Cottontail, along with many other unnamed characters. Fanny would not stay part of the Oswald canon for long, as she was soon replaced with Hortensia. After this, Fanny and the other side characters within the Oswald cartoons would fade into obscurity, not even appearing in Wasteland in any of the Epic Mickey games or comics. And that begs the question, where are they now? Inky Mickey and the 2007 reel. A technical demonstration of what would later become Epic Mickey was created in 2007, and it was a far departure from what we ended up seeing in the final game. Mickey's design was drastically changed, as were the spatters, and even the setting looked nothing like what I assume is supposed to be Mean Street. The most major change was Mickey's ability to attack his enemies. Instead of using the iconic brush, Mickey would seemingly throw paint or ink directly from his hands and would surf on it as a method of travel. It's super interesting to see an early version of the game and how different it could have been, but I'm honestly glad we got the version of the game that we did. I'm not a huge fan of the 2007 Reels art design, and I love the symbolism that comes from the brush itself.
The true Guardians of Wasteland. The first Epic Mickey introduced players to the Guardians, otherwise known as the Tints and Terps that we talked about way back in part 1, and have existed since Wasteland was created. However, the sequel introduced the Spirit of Wasteland and the Sisters of Angel Caverns, who are also stated to have existed since Wasteland's creation. Confusing? Yeah, it is. No official statement has been made on this, so this entry is simply in reference to the skepticism that surrounds which of these are the true Guardians of Wasteland. Which do you think it is? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know any theories you guys have on this one. Unused cow texture in Dark Beauty Castle Courtyard. Dolphin is one of the most commonly used emulation softwares for playing Wii games on PC. Dolphin has a texture ripping feature that allows those brave enough to dig through a game's files to find secrets within its source code, and we already know how strong-willed we Epic Mickey fans are. Using this feature, it was discovered that a texture exists for what seems to be a cow in the courtyard of Dark Beauty Castle. Oswald's original intentions with Mickey on the Moonliner. This one is kind of long, but it's super interesting, and I wanted to save it until later on. Back when Epic Mickey's story was still being conceptualized, Oswald was originally planned to be the central antagonist of the game. Warren Spector loved the idea until he spoke with John Lasseter, yes, that John Lasseter, who told him that it wouldn't make sense for Oswald's first appearance in a Disney property in 80 years to be as a villain. Spector really wrestled with this until finally realizing that Oswald really deserved a chance at redemption. At that point, Oswald became more of the sympathetic rival we saw in the first game. However, it does seem that Oswald would still have a few moments through which his selfish, villainous side snuck its way through. For example, Oswald's plan to use the Moonliner to allow Mickey's return home was met with some confusion from Gus when he tells Oswald that without a heart, the two of them won't be able to leave Wasteland, to which Oswald responds by walking away. We see later, after the Blot makes off with Mickey's heart, Oswald's frustration starts to boil over when he says that no one can get out of here without that heart, to which Mickey asks, "No one?" Oswald brushes off Mickey's question, changing the subject. Finally, upon setting all of the fireworks in the towers of Dark Beauty Castle, Mickey finds Oswald next to Hortensia, still in her inert form. Oswald tells Mickey that he knows the Thinner disaster was an accident by saying, "For a while, I did mean to... the rocket. Never mind. I made my share of messes." These instances don't seem too significant on their own, but when they're placed together, it paints an obvious picture as to what Oswald's original intentions were.
Constance Hatchaway's disappearance. So this is it, the bottom of the bottom, the last entry on the iceberg, and as a die-hard Haunted Mansion fan, I thought this would be a fitting end. Constance Hatchaway is the ghostly bride who appears throughout the Haunted Mansion attraction in Disney parks throughout the world. She has killed every man she's married by means of decapitation. Get it? Hatchaway? Long story short, it's been said that Constance was the former head. Get it? Head? I hate it here. Of the Lonesome Manor household, and if you couldn't tell Lonesome Manor was based on the Haunted Mansion, I have no idea what to tell you. What's interesting though is that she is said to be the former head of Lonesome Manor, but no longer is, as she doesn't appear anywhere in the game at all. Is it possible that she's been freed from Wasteland? I mean, as a ghost, she doesn't have a heart, I think. But the Haunted Mansion has always been a popular ride, so what was she doing in Wasteland in the first place? Maybe she's capable of traveling between Wasteland and the cartoon world whenever she wants? Either way, I love the addition of Constance Hatchaway to the Epic Mickey lore. I would love to see an Epic Mickey 3 in which she appears as a boss, or even a character who provides some eerie advice. One can only dream.
And now it's time for that part of the video, that's right, the corrections portion. So before we call this Iceberg an iceberg, let's see where we went wrong. First, Abe's line in Epic Mickey 2 regarding the storm blot has less to do with the storm blot itself and more about the context of it. Chase Jones confirmed that the citizens of Wasteland actually referred to the blot as the storm blot. Even in the original game's data, the character is called the storm blot. So in universe, this line is in reference to the blot from the first game and not the cut Oswald merged shadow blot concept.
Heading up Mickey Junk Mountain, Mickey defeated the Shadow Blood. Thought everything was good, too. What he didn't know was that there was an even bigger blot. A storm blot. One that could destroy all of Wasteland.
Something I didn't think I was entirely wrong with was the NPC inconsistencies entry, with the telephone swapping genders between the first and second game. But I did miss the main point of that entry, so I wanted to clarify a couple of things. Two characters that exist and appear in both games are
Jack Kelly
and the Cinema Usher.
In Epic Mickey, Jack is a horse and the Usher is a cow. But in Epic Mickey 2, their species are switched.
These two particular NPCs are the ones this entry is in reference to. Going back to the Italian magazine Topolino, I didn't go too in-depth with this entry, but something that deserves to be brought up is the fact that an entire Epic Mickey 2 graphic novel was released in the second Epic Mickey issue that, to this day, has never been widely published in English. Something else I didn't mention in part 2 is the fact that Topolino is the Italian name for Mickey Mouse, so it's basically Mickey Mouse Magazine in Italy.
The popular character likenesses entry is more in reference to the Beetleworks that feature parts of well-known Disney characters, such as the Hades head tanker, or this Beetleworks with the head of Ursula from The Little Mermaid.
Finally, there is actually some pretty substantial proof that Epic Mickey Power of Illusion does in fact take place after Epic Mickey 2. The game's digital manual contains a story section that explains the events in Wasteland that led to the arrival of the Castle of Illusion. Gus finds that the Castle of Illusion landed directly on Tomorrow City Square after he fixed the projector screen there that had been broken because of the quakes between Epic Mickey 1 and 2. But in Epic Mickey 2, Tomorrow City appears completely unharmed and intact. Special thanks to Dylan Lawrence on YouTube for letting me know about this, as well as the creator of this Iceberg, Goomba Broadcast, for sending me footage of the digital manual. Speaking of which, I said in part 1 that I don't have a way to capture my own gameplay or even run Dolphin on my Mac, so finding gameplay for certain aspects or even entire entries on the Iceberg was a bit difficult, and one entry I just couldn't find footage on was the Blot's cameo on the outside of the cinema in Epic Mickey 2. Midway through editing part 2 though, I received a message from an individual by the name of Bane, and they have been so incredibly helpful throughout this process. They offered to capture gameplay for me, make edits or script changes, pretty much anything that I might have needed. Because of them, I'm now able to show you the Blot's cameo in Epic Mickey 2. You spray thinner on the cinema wall here and bam, Blot. Apologies for not having this sooner, but the fact that we have this now is a true testament to the Epic Mickey community. Thanks so much again to Bane for their help here. And of course another major thank you to the creator of this Iceberg, Z Broadcast or Goomba Broadcast, for their help in getting everything in absolute tip-top shape for this part of the explanation. They proofread my script and made sure everything was up to par with everything they wanted this Iceberg to be. And just a general thank you for even creating this Iceberg. This has been an absolute saga, and it wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for you and your love for this wonderful series.
And wow, we're done. We've completed the Disney Epic Mickey Iceberg. Do you like my little microphone? He's a friend. If you made it to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you so much, and I appreciate you for making it to the end of this little adventure of mine. This has been one of the most fun projects I've ever had the pleasure of working on. I love this series, I love how accepting the fan base has been toward me and my videos, and I love getting to do the whole YouTube thing. So if you've been enjoying what I've been cooking up for the past few months, be sure to hit subscribe and like this video. I would really love to have you along for the ride, so do that. Like I said, I love this series. I even had the collector's edition, but I lost my little Mickey figure that came with it, and I can't find one online, so I'm really bummed about that. So this has been a blast for me, and I can't thank those who helped me along the way enough for everything that they've done. If you helped me personally throughout this process and I have not given you the credit that you deserve, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to make sure that you are getting the credit that you deserve, because trust me, I couldn't have done this by myself. It takes a village, and this particular village has been super kind to me, so I want to return the favor. Something else that's really cool, I have a Patreon now. That is right, for as little as $1 every month, you're getting access to content that I wouldn't normally have posted on my YouTube channel. This is behind the scenes content, blooper reels, fun small little side projects I'm working on. And top tier patrons will get a thank you at the end of every video, and you have an influence on what kind of videos I will be making. Super, super cool stuff. If you have any interest in becoming a patron for me, I would really appreciate it, and I will have my Patreon linked in the description down below. And of course, I don't want to leave you guys totally in the dark on what's coming next for the channel, so I wanted to give you a few little hints as to what's coming next. There's a certain movie coming out within the next couple of weeks that I am really excited for, and I want to celebrate it in some way. So if you are a Disney fan, you're in good company because Disney's going to be the next video too. I won't say what it is, but just be excited for it. And it will also be the first thing I've posted on my channel in the format of what I want to be posting that isn't an Iceberg video. Something a little bit more laid back and kind of personal. So get excited for that too, because that video is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. Thank yous, Patreon, what's coming next. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you all so much for watching this series that I have put so much of my heart and myself into. To say I worked on this video throughout my entire senior year of college is not an exaggeration. I found the Iceberg image way back in October of 2021, and then I reached out to Goomba Broadcast about doing a video on it, and after months of writing and producing and editing, we are here at the end, and I could not be more proud of how far these videos have come. Thank you so much again to everybody that stuck it out to the end of this Iceberg. I appreciate you so much. This has been the Disney Epic Mickey Iceberg Explained. I have been Evan. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a very happy birthday and sleep tight. I'm done!